Okay, hello. My name's Doug Smith. I'm Deputy Director for the University of the West of England, and effectively trying to give some feedback on the building as we see it now, from the point of view of the client. I've actually put some slides in which take it a little bit further than just low carbon, but more about sustainability, some of the issues that we've had problems with, and my own thoughts about how we need to join things up maybe better. I think my opening point would be that in terms of moving forward to achieve what we are being asked to achieve in the way of carbon reduction in the future, if you're a client, actually you've probably got the biggest or nearly the biggest part to play in that process. If that isn't evident already, I'm sure it will become so as we move forward. So, firstly, delivering a low-carbon building, BREEAM excellence. That's what our original brief was to do, was to try and get a BREEAM excellence rating. We did do that. I think that the technologies that were used were quite innovative. We did find that possibly we could have gone a lot further, but often it's a balance between trying to make the measure against capital cost. And I suspect as commissioners of buildings in the past, you may have found that a problem as well. You're trying to convince people to go the extra mile in terms of these ideas in order to and the capital costs of those, implementing those. So a good example was Justin's example with the ground source heat pumps. We did look at that item very, very seriously, but we felt that the payback on it was something that wasn't something we could invest that level of capital on. I think if the ground conditions had been different, and it might be that where you commission buildings, those ground conditions are lend themselves to piled construction for foundations, then incorporating that kind of ground source heat pumps might be something that's actually would be much easier thing to justify. But unfortunately we couldn't justify it on this project. I've said convincing clients there about the need for low carbon buildings. As an estates department or facilities department, we're kind of in the middle, an informed client trying to advise the university in this instance about good practice and recommended design to try and produce low carbon sustainable buildings. I'm not sure if anyone here comes from a finance background, do they? Anybody involved with financing buildings? No, okay. Well, I think we've got probably the wrong audience then. And I've seen this time and time again, is that you actually need to get the people that are going to give you the money or fund the building to events like this, to give them a better understanding, to educate them in why going down a low carbon route of design for buildings, a more sustainable approach to operating those buildings, is really the right thing to do. And it takes an enormous amount of effort sometimes to convince funders that it is the right thing to do. On this project, we went through a period of many months before it was effectively approved to go forward on the basis of the design that we've now got. It could have been that we would have gone down a much less sustainable route, possibly at a cheaper cost, but we feel that we've done the right thing. And I think the next speaker is going to talk about corporate social responsibility, and that's a very big part to play, certainly in HE and at UWE at the moment, in doing the right thing. So did we deliver a sustainable approach to construction and operation of the building? Well, I think I'm happy to say yes to the first thing in terms of construction. You've had a look round. You've had, I know, a number of discussions and speakers talking to you about the technical nature of how we've achieved that low carbon approach for this building. I'm not sure, obviously I apologise I wasn't here for the first discussion, but as well as the design and then implementation of the mechanical and electrical services philosophy, other areas of kind of low carbon innovation that have taken place are things like the walls in this particular lecture theatre, which are quite thick but are actually made of rendered straw bales, and I think you can see that out when you go outside. Again, low carbon technology called Mod Cell. I would recommend it if you've got a framed building and you need to clad that building, then it is an option that you should consider. What you should also consider, or you need to do, is check with your insurers. Okay, make sure, practical thing I know, but make sure your insurers are happy with that form of construction first of all. Okay. Another area of more sustainable construction that we've looked at and considered and then adopted is the recycled cladding materials. So the grey cladding tile materials that you've probably seen on your walk around the outside. Those are recycled materials. It assisted us with gaining the BREEAM Excellent rating. It was also considered to be the right thing to do with regards to the whole process of recycling waste products. There's lots and lots of products out there on the market, and I believe more so in the future, because they will be seen as the right and attractive solutions to gaining more sustainable and low carbon buildings. So keep your eyes open and keep looking, challenge your designers to find these kind of products and then try them out. With regards to achieving a sustainable approach to the operation of the building, I think it's really too early to say at this stage. As Justin said, we've only really run the place for the past 5 months. I did do a little bit of a check with our energy manager yesterday with regards to trying to get some comparable data on energy consumption. What we found in the 5-month period is that the building operates in terms of electricity consumption at significantly lower rates than both R Block 1, so the first phase, and comparably in terms of area space, about 35% less electrical energy use than one of our other relatively new buildings, S Block, at the other end of the campus. But it is very, very early days. Our electrical maintenance engineer, I also spoke with them, and what they've said is, well, really you do need to go right through the whole annual cycle. We've installed these very clever light switching arrangements, but because it's the winter months and we've had actually quite gloomy weather conditions, the potential saving maybe is lesser at this time of year, or certainly over the period that we've had, because we haven't necessarily been able to get the best out of those controls. I suspect if we were to come back in another year's time and look at the overall energy usage, that we're hoping for figures of around about 40 to 45% lower than comparable buildings on the estate. So certainly very, very achievable. A couple of other issues that just to mention is with regards to flexibility and changing user requirements. It's something that is very difficult to design in often, where you've got multiple users of buildings with different requirements. It would also be fair to say that once a building is in operation, actually you're likely to gain much more out of managing that effectively than necessarily with regards to low carbon that you save during the construction period, because you're going to be operating the building probably for the best part of 40 to 50 years. So management of what goes on in the building is absolutely fundamental. Without wanting to upset anyone, we do sometimes get requests which they conflict with the whole principles of trying to manage buildings in a more sustainable manner. So for instance, if we were to say, well, we wanted this building open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, well, that would be fine if the occupancy in that building was relatively high. But it doesn't really make sense to do that if you've only got maybe 3, 4, 5 people in the building. So managing occupancy, space utilisation, they're all fundamental bits in the way to reduce your carbon emissions, and as significant, if not more significant, than the actual construction phase. Next point, with regards to joined up delivery, I think the first thing to say is that what would be really good if we're going to achieve that 80% reduction in carbon by 2050 is for the government to come up with some kind of plan, a cunning plan. We haven't got it at the moment, and that's absolutely fundamental, maybe with some targets through that process in order for all of us to attempt to get there. What I would say is that there's a piece of work that's been done by the construction industry. We're obviously a big player in terms of delivering and operating low carbon buildings. It was commissioned by the government, and it was headed up by Paul Morrell, who's the Chief Construction Advisor for the government. It's just been published fairly recently, in the past few months. And it's quite an eye-opener. It picks up on the point with regards to having a government plan to achieve these targets. But one of the other areas that it highlights quite significantly is the fact that the construction industry doesn't think it is ready to be able to deliver the type of low carbon buildings that we require. It's too fragmented. There's not enough partnering and processes that are joined up in order to try and achieve these kind of targets for the future. And there needs to be certainly a whole lot more work done on that, probably driven by government and by commissioners, clients, to make the process joined up. Benefits of two-stage procurement. I'm not going to get into this in any big way. However, for the purposes of producing and operating low-carbon buildings, it appears at first sight to be a better way of doing it. Whether there's an extra time and extra cost, I think depends on the nature of the economy, the construction industry at any point in time. And you will get differing views about what is the best way to procure a low carbon building. You might reduce your capital costs by going single stage. However, the long-term benefits of getting a contractor on board early on in the process, I think, are significant. As I said there, the need to do it better, be more joined up, right the way through the process. I've got 2 minutes. Okay. Just the last one. In terms of the future, certainly the HE sector, and I'm sure, I know some of you, or quite a lot of you, are from local government. There are new drivers that are impacting on us as organisations right now. You've got the carbon reduction commitment and all that that brings with it, and probably even more fundamentally, less capital funding going around. I think it will lead to new ways of looking at buildings and their construction. It's a big conflict. On the one hand, you need to maybe invest more capital to reap the benefits of low carbon and more sustainable buildings. On the other hand, there's less capital going around. It's a very, very big challenge. How will we do it? I can't see it being any other way than carrot and stick. More taxation, more legislation to effectively increase the standards that you need to comply with. Potential benefits, capital funding if you do it the right way. That's what's happening in the HE sector. You have to show your performance, that you are reducing carbon, your carbon emissions, in order to be able to tap into any future capital in the future, in coming years. It is a big challenge. I think that it's one that we're actually quite well prepared for in certain areas. Clients, I think, need more help, so in terms of understanding what the benefits are. But ultimately, I think in terms of the UK, we need to be leading this so that we can use our skills base around the world, basically, in the future.